Welcome to the Super Healthy Human podcast with Dr. Rodger Murphree.
Hi, good evening. I'm Dr. Rodger Murphree. Welcome. I'm so delighted you're joining me. Tonight, we're going to be focusing on fatigue, fibromyalgia and fatigue. What are things that you can do to dramatically increase your energy, to prevent or to get out of fibro flares as quickly as possible? But how to get a good night's sleep, all these things you can, if you get these things I'm going to share with you tonight, you're going to see an incredible improvement in your energy. I'm going to just dive in here. I've got this recording. We'll record it. We'll share it for those who couldn't make it tonight. But thank you so much. So just a little housekeeping. First of all, welcome. I'm Dr. Rodger Murphree, your fibrodoctor.com, author of Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome. Been in private practice for 34 years and specialized in fibromyalgia for over 2 decades. There are some common things that if you can just get these things right, and you're going to see a dramatic improvement in your fibromyalgia. This has clinically been proven over the years, and that's why I really wanted to share some stuff with you tonight. We'll go, I'm not sure how long we'll go. We won't go past 7. I'll stop, take some questions if anybody's got some questions at the very end. And I say this, I think every time I do a presentation, but really I want to emphasize tonight, you're going to want to take some notes because some of the stuff is going to be kind of broad, but I'm also going to be really specific in what I share with you on some things that you're going to want to write down or you're not going to remember. And they're very important. So you got a couple of minutes to get you a pad and a pen and get situated, turn off your phone, no distractions. Because again, I'm going to be giving you step-by-step information that's going to help you dramatically increase your energy and avoid fibro flares, help with mental clarity, and indirectly, some of the things that I'm going to ask you to do are also going to help reduce your pain, whether that's chronic fibro pain, neuropathy, muscle pain, soft tissue pain, whatever it is. Some of the things that I'll ask you to do, if you'll do them, you're going to see that your pain will be drastically improved as well within a couple of weeks. I want to share a few slides with you, and let's see if I can do that. And I'm going to just share a few slides, and then I'm going to really go into the details about what I want to encourage you to, to consider doing. It's that will make a big difference in your energy. This is a presentation I did, I think, last year for another continuing ed group. I can't remember where I was, but so some of these slides we're going to just breeze through real quick, and I have time to go in. And this was a 3-hour presentation, and obviously we're not going to be here 3 hours tonight. I want to try to finish before 7, and I want to save plenty of time for questions. So let's talk about fatigue. With fibro, I hear this all the time. I hear that people say, Dr. Murphree, I can handle the pain if I just didn't have this fatigue, if I didn't have fibro flares all the time. And, when I first heard that early on years ago, I thought, golly, I can't imagine someone would choose getting more energy over the pain. I mean, we all know the pain with fibromyalgia is pretty brutal, right? And so it really kind of took me aback when I heard that the first few times. But then I realized that part of what happens is when you're just so run down, which happens with fibromyalgia over a period of time. I mean, who wouldn't be exhausted if you didn't sleep? Had struggled to fall asleep, stay asleep, never felt refreshed the next day when you got up. You couldn't really exercise, couldn't be really very active because unfortunately, if you were active, you ran the risk of having problems with, fibro flare. And then you take into account, unfortunately, some individuals are taking medications that are actually creating fatigue or certainly contributing to fatigue. And you have a lifestyle that doesn't really lend itself to being healthy, even though I know everyone on here and those listening to the recording are doing everything you can to try to get healthy, to feel better. But it's a hard hill to navigate, right? Because you just get so run down. And when you're so tired, it's hard to do the things that you've probably learned that would be helpful in you feeling better, like eating healthy. But the problem with that is, and I can tell you, I had the flu a couple of weeks ago, And when you have a bad patient, I don't get sick very often, but I'm a bad patient. And I don't, it's hard for me to do even for me. I know what I need to be doing, and it's even hard to drum up the energy to eat healthy and do the things I'm supposed to do. When you get run down, it makes it so much harder to do these things. But I want to really encourage you. Some of the things that you're going to hear are going to resonate with you. Not everything, but some are. And please take some action steps to be proactive. But if you're tired of being tired, if you get up and goes, got up and went, and you have these symptoms, low energy, exhaustion, poor sleep, brain fog, no stamina, so you don't have any resistance to stress. When you get under stress, it's magnified. Loud noises, bright lights, mental tasks, physical activities, you find you just don't have a lot of resistance, don't have much stamina. You can't do a whole lot. And that predisposes you to fibro flares, which we're going to talk about tonight, how to prevent those. Low moods, become withdrawn. I hear so many of my patients, they get, they get depressed. And unfortunately, a lot of times doctors who don't know any better, they tell their patients with fibromyalgia, your problem is you just need to lose weight or need to get more sleep or improve your sex life or go on a vacation or, you just need to be on antidepressant. And, nothing could be further from the truth because people with fibromyalgia, it's not that they're because they're, even though they got depression, it's the illness that's caused the depression. I mean, who wouldn't feel a little bit down, a little bit blue, or maybe depressed if your life had been taken from you, your social life, your business life, your family life, things that you were able to do prior to having fibromyalgia oftentimes are long gone. They disappear, whether that's losing a job or uh, losing a family because they don't understand what you're going through, or losing friends or social, like whatever that is, hobbies and recreation things. And so it's no wonder that those with fibromyalgia do get some low moods, but fatigue is a big part of that. And what you'll see is once you start implementing some of these things I'm going to share with you tonight to help with your energy, a lot of those low moods are just going to disappear. Causes of fatigue. Well, stress is probably number one because your body has to respond to stress. And every day we're under stress. All day long we're under stress. Any kind of stimulation, lights, I hear noise upstairs, any type of stimulation, chemicals we take in our diet, things we take in, vitamins, supplements, medications, these are all stimulants. These these all cause a reaction in the body. And that is, that can create stress. And then that, unfortunately, once you get under that stress, it can have a domino effect to start deplete certain nutritional chemicals that you need for your body to have energy, to reduce pain, to get a good night's sleep. We're going to talk about some more about that here in just a minute. But the number one thing um, that really trips people up with fibromyalgia, with their fatigue and their pain, is poor sleep. And I've talked about that. I've done presentations on that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. I'm going to share the step-by-step protocol. So I want you to write these down, but you can find out more about those in detail at yourfibrodoctor.com. There's a lot of free videos on there, and you can see more about deep restorative sleep protocols, step-by-step protocols there at yourfibrodoctor.com. We're going to talk about adrenal fatigue. I'm going to spend some time there. We're going to talk about thyroid. That's a biggie. I find that 65% of my patients have a problem with their thyroid that's never been properly diagnosed, or it's not being properly treated. And I'm going to tell you why that happens and how to correct that. Inflammations and pain. So when you're in a lot of pain, that creates fatigue. It's exhausting. It's exhausting to have chronic pain day in and day out. And those with fibro really don't understand what you're going through. I do. So know that lowering your pain, lowering that inflammation is also going to generate more energy, both mentally and physically. We already mentioned low moods. Low moods can cause you just not to have any motivation. You just get really withdrawn and you just become very sedentary and you just don't want to engage in life. It's sad, but it happens. And I totally understand how it can happen working with fibromyalgia patients over the last 25 years. Anxiety, one of the other things that really causes a lot of fatigue is this internal anxiety. So I don't know how many of you have true anxiety where you feel really anxious all the time, or how many of you just feel this inner tension or stress that you feel on a day-to-day basis. Walking around with that on a day-to-day basis is exhausting. It is exhausting. We'll talk a little bit more about how to correct that here in just a minute. Other causes of fatigue: toxins, mold toxins, environmental, heavy metals, infections, yeast overgrowth, parasites, poor diet, being overweight, sedentary lifestyle. Um, we're not going to be able to get into all these. Many of these we're going to skip over, as I mentioned earlier. This is like a 3-hour lecture, so we're not going to go in there into those. But chronic stress is a major factor that really is a catalyst for the symptoms we see in fibromyalgia. And you can see part of here is why it depletes. Anytime you're under stress, your body's releasing certain chemicals to be able to deal with it, like the happy hormone serotonin or the anti-stress vitamin B5 or pantothenic acid or the stress vitamin C. Anytime you're under stress, your body's releasing. It needs more of these things, these minerals, amino acids, uh, magnesium. Magnesium's in 300 different bodily processes. If you have fibromyalgia, you're deficient in magnesium unless you're supplementing with it. That's why those with fibromyalgia are notoriously deficient in magnesium because, again, anytime you get under stress, your body needs magnesium. And fibromyalgia is incredibly stressful to have for numerous reasons that I shared previously. But also, any type of activity, your body needs magnesium for cellular energy as part of the Krebs cycle. What we learned in medical school, you've got to have a lot of magnesium to generate energy. But if you use it up faster than you replenish it, now you start to see some of the symptoms that many of you probably have experienced uh, at least once. And that is, so when you get low in magnesium, you may become constipated. Magnesium is a natural muscle relaxer. It relaxes tight, achy muscles, and it relaxes your colon. Magnesium is so important for regulating the cellular environment. And when you get a deficiency in magnesium, now you get an overabundance of calcium into the cell, and that can create high blood pressure, mitral valve prolapse. When you're low in magnesium, you become deficient in certain brain chemicals that need magnesium to make them, like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. We're going to talk about those tonight. These are very important brain chemicals that you need, but without magnesium, you can't make them. Restless leg syndrome, cramps, muscle spasms, eye twitches. These are all signs of magnesium deficiency. There's 680 milligrams of magnesium in my fibromyalgia formula, which is a high dose multivitamin mineral formula with CoQ10, malic acid, all the amino acids, antioxidants, digestive enzymes, specially formulated B vitamins that are methylated. But one of the big things that's in there, so important, is the magnesium. Now, if you're someone that has a lot of constipation, if you have irritable bowel, 70% of the people with fibromyalgia have irritable bowel syndrome. But if you're an individual that has problems with constipation, once you start supplementing with magnesium, what you want to look for is that you're having a normal bowel movement, ideally on a daily basis, to get those toxins out, because the longer those toxins are sitting in your colon, the more at risk you are for those toxins to be reabsorbed and get into your body. So ideally, you'd be having a bowel movement every day. If you're not, if you're a little bit constipated, start adding magnesium. If you're taking the Fibro formula, and I hope you are, that's the formula that I developed. If you're taking and you're having a normal bowel movement, great. But if you're taking it and you're still not having a normal daily bowel movement, add 200 to 250 milligrams of magnesium citrate or magnesium glycinate. You can get that on my store or anywhere. It doesn't matter to me. Yourfibrostore.com. You can go there and you can get the magnesium glycinate. Regardless, though, what I want you to do is, if you're constipated, that's a sign of magnesium deficiency. So is restless leg syndrome. So is muscle cramps and spasms. Add some additional magnesium. Now, if you take too much magnesium, you're going to get a loose bowel movement. So reduce your dose. But just about everyone with fibromyalgia is going to be deficient in magnesium unless they're supplementing magnesium. Stress depletes certain brain chemicals like acetylcholine that's needed to make the brain chemicals, the happy hormones like serotonin, dopamine, norepinephrine. So stress lowers our thyroid function. That's one of the number one causes of low thyroid, is stress, in creating the number one type of low thyroid, which is Hashimoto's thyroiditis, which is an autoimmune disease, which numerous patients of mine over the years have had that, never found in the conventional medical practice, but I would always find it. So I'll talk more about that here in just a minute 'cause it's very important. HPA axis dysfunction, which everyone with fibromyalgia has, the hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals regulate the different systems in our body. But when it gets under too much stress, then these different systems and the communication between them, our pain threshold, our sleep wake cycle, our immune system, our digestive system, our elimination system, our musculoskeletal system. Normally, these systems are communicating and coordinating how to respond to one another. But when the hypothalamus and the pituitary, these two organs in the brain, get under too much stress, they start to become dysfunctional. And now they can't regulate all the different things going on in our body. We don't have to think about taking 12 breaths per minute. We don't have to think about pumping blood through 60 miles of arteries, veins, and capillaries every minute. We don't have to think about digesting our food. We don't have to think about if we go up a flight of stairs, our heart rate goes up, our blood pressure goes up to pump more blood and oxygen to the cells and to the muscles so that we can get up those stairs. We don't have to think about all that, right? The hypothalamus, pituitary, adrenals are regulating all this. They're regulating any type of stimulation and sending out a message and coordinate with all the different systems. But when you get fibro, this is compromised. Can't go into more detail about that, but you can learn more about that if you like at yourfibrodoctor.com, or you get a copy of my book, Treating and Beating Fibromyalgia and Chronic Fatigue Syndrome, at yourfibrostore.com. You get the ebook. Let's start here because this just makes sense. If you don't get this right, you're never going to feel as good as you could feel with fibromyalgia. This is so important, not just for fatigue, but for pain, mental clarity, fibro fog, eliminating that, irritable bowel, losing weight if you need to lose weight, for low moods and anxiety. This is the first big step right here. Because if you're not getting deep restorative sleep, the body can't repair itself. So every night when your body is supposed to be repairing itself for 6 to 8 hours, 9 hours, whatever it is, it's not doing that. And so you go to bed every night. Hopefully you're able to get to sleep. I know many of you are probably using prescription medications, which I want to caution you, not to scare you, just to warn you that prescription sleep medications have been shown to increase the risk of death by 500%. Not to scare you, just to share and encourage you to start looking for a natural approach to getting to sleep and staying asleep, which I'm going to share with you right now. So stress creates a problem with sleep. Oftentimes people are tired all day, then they catch their second wind towards at bedtime, stress themselves out, and they can't fall asleep. But stress is a catalyst for interfering with falling asleep and staying asleep, and the body being able to repair itself. During the night, you're supposed to be releasing certain hormones and chemicals like human growth hormone, which repairs any kind of damaged tissue. It's for healthy nails and skin and hair and muscle, builds collagen, helps with skin. But if you're not getting into that deep restorative sleep, not only do you not feel refreshed the next day, but you're not making human growth hormone, which tends to decrease as we age anyway. But one of the clinically proven best things you can do to extend longevity and help repair the body is making sure you have optimal levels of human growth hormone being released. And one of the best ways to do that is deep restorative sleep. So if you're not getting deep restorative sleep, the other thing that happens, not only are you tired the next day, that just makes sense. If you're not sleeping well, and this is going on for a week or two, or a month, or a year, or 10 years, like a lot of my patients, you're just going to be exhausted. And you get to the point you almost just dread trying to go to bed at night because you wake up and you feel so bad the next day. If you're not getting deep restorative sleep, you increase your inflammatory chemicals by a minimum of 40%. Now, let me point out that everyone with fibromyalgia has a tremendous amount of inflammation. That's the pain, right? You may have other signs of inflammation too, but the pain is a pretty good telltale sign that you've got inflammation. And if you're not getting deep restorative sleep on a consistent basis, now you're going to increase what you've already got going on by an additional 40, minimum of 40%. So you're walking around with all these inflammatory chemicals being released into your body throughout the day. Poor sleep can not only cause the fatigue and the pain, but also can contribute to other unwanted health conditions like fibro fog. I mean, if you're not sleeping well, mentally, you're just not going to be as sharp. If you're not sleeping well, it's easy to understand that eventually you're going to become a little more withdrawn, maybe a little depressed, maybe even a little anxious. It's kind of ironic, but to get to correct restless leg syndrome, which is these little spasms and fidgets that you get during the night, will wake you up. It's ironic though, but once you start going into deeper restorative sleep, the restless leg syndrome that you think is waking you up during the night will be gone. And a big part of that is making sure you're taking the fibro formula or you're taking enough magnesium to make that happen. Restless leg syndrome. So IBS, you're more likely to have irritable bowel syndrome flares when your body's under stress. One of the most stressful things you can do on a daily basis is not get enough sleep, not allow the body to repair itself, and to wake up every day unrefreshed. It compromises your immune system. Poor sleep increases more stress, which increases poor sleep, which increases more stress. Increased risk of heart attack, stroke, cardiovascular disease, and other autoimmune conditions are associated. One of the things that's happening with poor sleep, though, is you're generating a lot of oxidative stress because the body cannot squelch that during that 6 to 9 hours of sleep when it should be. The other way you're experiencing oxidative stress is, unfortunately, toxic air that you breathe in, toxic foods that you're eating with preservatives and additives and pesticides and these other things. These, let's see, here we go. Okay. These chemicals that we're taking in, unfortunately, create inflammation and create this thing called oxidative stress, which then causes your mitochondria to release inflammatory chemicals, which causes more inflammation. It also causes your mitochondria, these are the power plants of the cell, to shut down, to start to have trouble communicating with other cells like they're supposed to. Now, what I want to point out is when your mitochondria are not working like they're supposed to, you're really in trouble. And because the mitochondria give you energy. The mitochondria are the energy that the organs, the little organs in a cell that give that cell energy to do its job. When the mitochondria get under too much stress, it goes into a defensive posture called cell danger response. Can't go into detail about that. It's in the new edition of the new book, but it is on the website. You can see in one of my blogs at yourfibrodoctor.com. Click, you can read that blog and learn more about that. But what you want to do with oxidative stress is you want to make sure you're taking in plenty of antioxidants. So eating healthy, right? Fruits and vegetables are your best source of antioxidants. Certainly taking supplements, the fibro formula has all sorts of antioxidants in there for this oxidative stress this reason. But just eating healthy, eating fruits and vegetables that, green tea and vitamin C, pantothenic acid, these are great antioxidant things that you can both eat and take, you can supplement. And then the other things, let me go back. So we don't have time to go into infections and parasites and toxins and ozone, things you breathe in. But at the bottom there, so a diet high in sugar, fat, and alcohol can create free radical damage, create fatigue, and certainly create pain. So here's the antioxidants right here. I mean, it's just eating good, healthy foods. One thing I want to point out here is I encourage you to try to do your best to eat organic. But if you can't, you can't. Sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. So if you can't eat organic, just do your best you can. But a couple things I want to suggest to you here. First of all, look up or Google or look on yourfibrodoctor.com, the blog, and you'll see the Toxic 12. You can Google that and the Clean 15. So these are foods that the Clean 15, you don't have to be so concerned if they are organic or not. But the Toxic 12, yes. And the reason why I bring that up is because everyone's heard how healthy blueberries are and raspberries and strawberries, but in particularly blueberries, right? But what I want to point out is berries are some of the most heavily treated food products out there. with pesticides and other things. So I want to encourage you. Kale is the other one. They're incredibly toxic if they're not organic. So those do your best. The others, you don't have to be so committed to eating organic, but um, certainly eating organic, you're getting more of the nutrients in the food for sure. But eating healthy can really increase your energy because it will squelch these help to squelch the oxidative stress. But this is more of the long game, right? It's going to take time to change your diet and see results. The only way you can overcome fibromyalgia is to get healthy. I've been treating fibromyalgia 25 years, 25 years, treated thousands of patients around the world with my telemedicine practice. And I can tell you you can overcome fibromyalgia, and that means different things to different people. But you've got to get healthy. And for those with fibro, that sounds kind of simplistic. Oh yeah, I'm changing my diet. It's not, because first of all, you don't a lot of times don't even know where to start. But second of all, just changing your diet is not going to yield the results quick enough, and you'll get discouraged. But long term, to get healthy, you have to eat healthy. You can't get healthy and eat unhealthy. It doesn't work. So I want to encourage you, and there's all kind of resources. There's a free report at the superhealthyhuman.com or at the yourfibrodoctor.com. One of those two, there's a free report about what's the different diets that are out there. And you can read more about that. I analyze the keto diet, the Mediterranean diet, whole foods diet, plant-based diet, carnivore diet, 40-30-30, the paleo diet. And I did my pros and cons and what the diet's all about. So you can see that. The mitochondria, as I mentioned, these are the power plants. These are the little organs in a cell, and they're responsible for releasing inflammatory chemicals and anti-inflammatory chemicals, depending on what's going on. They're responsible for generating energy. Our metabolism, our energy, what we have, comes from the mitochondria. If the mitochondria are not working correctly, then you'll see you have less energy, both mentally and physically. That's why in the fibro formula, there's things in there to increase your mitochondria function, to normalize them. And that's the coenzyme CoQ10, the malic acid, the special forms of the B vitamins that are in the fibro formula to get the mitochondria to kick in so that you have more energy and that the cells can communicate with each other and hopefully turn off this inflammatory reaction that oftentimes gets generated when the mitochondria are not working like they're supposed to. But you can see that the mitochondria produce 90% of the energy needed by the body. So if your mitochondria are dysfunctional, and unfortunately with fibromyalgia, we see genetically, oftentimes with just the way God made you, you don't have as many mitochondria as other individuals. And the ones that you have, the research shows that many of them are dysfunctional, meaning they're not working correctly, which is creating the pain and the fatigue. So anyway, so these are things that can create problems with the mitochondria. Won't go into detail. Let me go back to sleep and just pull that slide up about sleep. So you might want to write this down. Here's the sleep protocol, which it goes into more detail. You can see I have some videos on yourfibrostore.com that talk about the 4 jumpstart products, and one of those is about sleep. What you want to do is 30 minutes before bed on an empty stomach, you want to take 100 milligrams of 5-hydroxytryptophan, 5-HTP. 5-HTP. 5-HTP is an amino acid that comes from the foods that we eat. Normally, when we eat protein food, there's 20 amino acids. 9 of them are essential, meaning you have to get them in your diet. The body can't make them. One of the essential amino acids is tryptophan. And tryptophan you're supposed to get this when you eat protein. And then the tryptophan turns into 5-hydroxytryptophan or 5-HTP. And when the 5-HTP is combined with certain essential B vitamins and minerals and other amino acids, it turns into the brain chemical serotonin. It's important because serotonin, this brain chemical, is important to make the sleep hormone melatonin. 5-HTP increases your natural sleep hormone melatonin by 200%. But 5-HTP making serotonin when it's combined with the fibro formula also dramatically reduces your pain. Here's why. 5-HTP plus the fibro formula makes serotonin. As your serotonin level goes up, your melatonin level goes up, and you start to sleep better, start to feel refreshed, you feel better. As your serotonin level goes up from the 5-HTP, your pain threshold goes up. That means pain goes down, oftentimes dramatically. As your serotonin level goes up, what you see from when you're taking the 5-HTP and the fibro formula, your mental clarity goes up, your moods improve. Serotonin is the happy hormone. It calms everything down. It's also needed to help you to regulate your bowel movements. You have more serotonin receptors in your intestinal tract than you do in your brain. So when you get nervous, you get butterflies in your stomach, right? But once you start taking the 5-HTP combined with the fibro formula, you're going to see that oftentimes, and combined with the digestive enzyme that is part of the fibro jumpstart bundle, you'll see that irritable bowel goes away within a couple weeks. That's how quickly that and dramatically that can change. Start with 100 milligrams of 5-HTP 30 minutes before bed on an empty stomach, which is an hour and a half after you've eaten anything. Take it with an ounce, because it doesn't take much. You don't want to drink a lot of juice at bedtime, but just maybe an ounce of grape juice or apple juice. The juice, which has sugar in it, right? When you drink that and take the 5-HTP, your body releases a hormone called insulin. And the insulin attaches to the serotonin and pulls the serotonin from your gut, pulls it across the blood-brain barrier so it gets in your brain. That's where we want it. We don't want it down here. So start with 100 milligrams, 30 minutes before bed, with 1 ounce of juice. You can mix it with water. What you should see is that you should fall asleep within 45 minutes and sleep through the night. If you don't, then the next night go to 200 milligrams. And then if you don't, then the next night go to 300 milligrams. Now, ideally, 300 milligrams is the therapeutic dose. Again, 5-HTP plus the fibro formula makes serotonin. As the serotonin goes up, your pain threshold goes up, pain goes down. As your serotonin level goes up, your sleep hormone melatonin goes up, you sleep better, you start to actually feel refreshed the next day. Okay, so 5-HTP, we want to start with 100 milligrams and work up to 300. Now, for 1% of those watching the replay, nobody on here is going to have this happen. Keep in mind, I've been doing this 25 years. Rarely does this ever happen. But if it does, don't let it discourage you. If you're somebody that's chemically sensitive and you know who you are, take Benadryl and instead of putting you to sleep, wakes you up. Take caffeine in some form and it puts you to sleep. If you've got some chemical sensitivities, you may have an issue where when you take the 5-HTP, 100 milligrams at bedtime, instead of putting you asleep, it makes you more alert. If that happens, don't get discouraged. The next day, don't do anything, but the following day, just so make sure the 5-HTP is out of your system. Take it during the day with food. If you take it with food, it will slow down the absorption. And what you oftentimes will see is nothing. You don't really, it doesn't make you overstimulated, doesn't make you sleepy, doesn't do anything. However, if you will start taking 100 milligrams 3 times a day with food, start with 100, give it a couple of days, make sure you're okay. Go to 100 twice a day with food, but work up to the therapeutic dose, 100 milligrams 3 times a day with food, or if you're intermittent fasting, 200 milligrams, and then 100 milligrams, whatever it is. But what you'll see is by taking the 5-HTP and the fibro formula, even if you're taking it during the day, it's going to raise your serotonin level. It's going to eventually start to raise your melatonin when your melatonin level should be going up at bedtime. And you're going to see that you're going to start to sleep better. As your serotonin level goes up, your pain threshold goes up, pain starts to come down, your moods improve, you feel better, IBS improves, even if you're taking it during the day. Now, let's say you take it at night and you take 100 milligrams and you fall right to sleep with it and you sleep through the night. What should you do the next night? Go to 200 and then go to 300, right? What about if you take 100 milligrams and nothing happens and you still struggle to fall asleep? That may happen. that may happen. It's not, it's everybody's different and probably will not happen with one. So the next night, go to two. And then if you're not able to fall asleep on two, then the next night, go to three. If you get to 300 milligrams of 5-HTP, and it's a good 5-HTP like the essential therapeutics that we recommend that's in our store, your Fibro store, so we know it works, and you're taking the Fibro formula, and you're still not able to fall asleep within 45 minutes, that's when you would add melatonin. But don't take melatonin because you may not have a melatonin deficiency. And even if you did, the most important thing for fibro is to raise that serotonin level. And you do that with 5-HTP and the Fibro formula, and then you raise melatonin. But if you bypass taking the 5-HTP and you're just taking the melatonin, you miss everything the 5-HTP and the Fibro formula can do in creating serotonin. I hope that makes sense. But if you get to 300 milligrams of 5-HTP, still not falling asleep within 45 minutes, then I recommend you take sublingual. That means you put it underneath the tongue and let it dissolve. Sublingual melatonin, which we also have in the Essential Therapeutics line at yourfibrostore.com. Take 3 milligrams with the 3,5-HTP, the 300 milligrams 5-HTP. See if you fall asleep in 45 minutes. If you don't, then the next night go to 6 milligrams. And if you need to, you can go as high as 12 milligrams. But what you should see is the combination of 5-HTP and, if needed, the sublingual melatonin will allow you to fall asleep within 45 minutes. Now, some of you have difficulty, even if you do that, or maybe you have a difficulty that you wake up in the middle of the night, you can't go back to sleep. If you're an individual, you don't have any trouble falling asleep, but you have trouble waking up in the middle of the night and struggle to get back to sleep, same protocol. Start with the 5-HTP. Remember, the 5-HTP is so important because it's serotonin. The 5-HTP combined with Fibro formula, as you get that serotonin level up, it reduces pain, helps with mental clarity, helps with moods, helps with irritable bowel, helps with sleep. It does so many things, right? But if you're an individual that you're waking up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, then there's a product that I developed because I'm a recovering insomniac. So I developed it called Delta Sleep. There's some other products in the store. I know we have a Alpha GABA works for some people. So I know some people are taking that, but the majority of my patients take Delta Sleep, which is an all natural sleep aid that when you take it works in about 15 minutes to put you back to sleep. It won't make you feel hungover, dopey, or sleepy the next day, even if you have to get up in 2.5 hours, 3 hours to go to work, or if you have to get up in the middle of the night, take care of a child or a special, somebody that a special needs individual in your family or an elderly parent that's with you, whatever it is, you won't be drugged out. You'll be able to get up. But if you're one of those individuals like I used to be, they would wake up 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning and just, oh my gosh, you go to the bathroom and you come back and you think about everything you got to do coming up that day or what you should have done, what you should have said, all these kind of things racing through your mind. The Delta Sleep works really well and it works quickly. So you take 2 to 4 of those right when you wake up, go to the bathroom. By the time you get back in bed, what you'll see is you typically fall asleep within about 15 or 20 minutes. You can also use Delta Sleep if you're a real hardcore insomniac and you're taking the 5-HTP and the sublingual melatonin. You could also take 2 to 4 of the Delta Sleep to really relax you and get you into that deep sleep. You can combine any of these supplements that I have mentioned with any sleep drug that you're taking, whether that's antidepressant or anything. My patients certainly do. So for those of you taking a sleep drug, just realize you don't have a sleep drug deficiency. You have a serotonin deficiency and you have a melatonin deficiency, but not a sleep drug deficiency. But while you try to work on that, getting off of that with somebody's help, maybe come join the coaching program with me, start on the naturals. Even if you're taking a sleep drug and you're falling asleep and sleeping through the night, that's not restorative sleep. Start the 5-HTP, start the Fibro formula and see the difference. And then when you can, work with your practitioner or come join the coaching program and let me help you to get off that sleep drug and onto a natural way to be able to fall asleep. Okay, so we talked about sleep. Hope you wrote all that down. I'm telling you, if you will do the Fibro Jumpstart Bundle and you will do the Fibro Pack and the 5-HTP, you're going to see it's such a game changer. It is such a game changer for everything I'm sharing with you. Don't have time to go into mold. Just know mold is something I see a lot. Don't have time to go into candida. Everybody has yeast or fungus in our digestive tract. Normally it's kept in check by good bacteria. But when you take antibiotics or steroids or eat a really bad diet for a long period of time, the yeast can take over and then you have problems. So the way one way to deal with a simple way, I can't go into detail about everything about the testing, everything goes into this. Just take a good probiotic. We've got some good ones on the store, but take a good probiotic. Heavy metal toxicity, you can't really go into that. Just methylation issues. Briefly going to share that this can create anxiety, depression, brain fog, fatigue, and pain. Because when you have a problem genetically with methylation, this chemical reaction, if you do, your body cannot absorb and utilize key nutrients that it needs to help you have energy, to help reduce pain, to help with mental clarity, to help be happy, to help reduce anxiety, to help with sleep, because it blocks B12 and B5 and B2 and B3 and folic acid. It sabotages your body's ability to work properly. That's why the Fibro formula has a special form of methylated B vitamins in there. We made that change when we went to all capsules a couple years ago. So here you can see just how important this is. It's very important to make sure that if you do have a methylation issue that you're dealing with. And again, the Fibro formula has the specialized B vitamins in there. So if you do have a genetic glitch or you have a problem with methylating, which is a detoxification process as well as for absorbing, utilizing certain nutrients. You can just see the ramifications here, all the things that can become compromised. Some of these terms you may not recognize, but glutathione is one of the most important detoxifying molecule that we have, and it can be sabotaged when you don't have proper methylation. I want to encourage all of you. One of the things you can do, most conventional practitioners don't. I'm not talking about this. You can get tested for this. But one thing you could do on your own, just to kind of get an idea, is you can get your homocysteine level checked. So this is a blood test, relatively really expensive. You can go to any lab test now. You can, when you get your blood work from your doctor, ask he or she to include homocysteine. If they say why, just say, I just read a bunch about it. But if your homocysteine level is elevated, that increases your risk of death by all causes by some 30 or 40%. A big part of that is inflammation. And one of the things that causes that homocysteine level is, this is a waste product, a byproduct of a chemical reaction. But what caused the buildup is you can't methylate. So if you see elevated homocysteine level, if it's above 8 for a female, you need to take steps to take the right B vitamins to get that homocysteine level and make sure you're not making it worse by taking the wrong multivitamin or B vitamins. So methylation is really important. You can just see, I can't really go into all the details about that, but it's certainly, I see it in my patients, and but you can just see there's all kind of things that start to happen if you're not able to methylate. I'm going to go quick because I want to take, I know we got some people on here. I want to make sure I get your questions. Adrenal fatigue. So in the conventional medical world, there's no such thing as adrenal fatigue. In functional medicine, the way that I've practiced for 34 years, we definitely recognize a thing called adrenal fatigue because we recognize everybody's different. When I was in chiropractic school, and even in pre-med, and then in chiropractic school, but it started really in pre-med, when I would dissect cadavers in anatomy lab, and it used to, in the beginning, at least, it would amaze me to see, well, that's not how it looks in the book. Because, you see this organ's supposed to be on this side. No. And this cadaver, it was on the other side. Weird, right? So you would see these things, you would see you would try to see what you were supposed to see from in a textbook. But when you dissected this individual, this cadaver, you would say, wow, that doesn't look anything. I mean, everything's misplaced. We are as different on the inside as we are on the outside. And what we want to do is be at optimal health. That's what you're going for. That's what you want. You want to live life. You don't want to die at 60 and live another 20 years. You want to live. You want to have vitality. So we're in functional medicine, we're looking at optimal ranges. We're looking at optimal function. How well is your brain functioning? We want to know, and we want to get it at optimal level. How well is your sleep? How are you doing? We want to, as we start to fix the dysfunctional functions, we're correcting the underlying causes of these symptoms, which are nothing more than warning signs. So one of the things that's common in fibromyalgia, just about everyone with fibromyalgia has a thing called adrenal fatigue. And your adrenal glands, they release hormones that are responsible for energy and stamina and resistance to stress. So when you're low in these hormones, in particular cortisol, you're going to see that you might have some symptoms that would tell you, warn you of this, and that is low blood sugar, hypotension, so low blood pressure, neural-mediated hypotension. Are you one of these individuals when you were lying down, you go to stand up, you get dizzy? Are you one of those kind of people? Fatigue, nausea. Uh, Typically, those with adrenal fatigue do not have much of an appetite in the morning. The reason why is because their cortisol level is low with adrenal fatigue. Cortisol is an anti-inflammatory. How many of you have had a steroid shot for a sinus infection or a low back disc or something? You got an injection. That is cortisol. Now, it's a synthetic form, and it's 4 times to 5 times stronger than what the body is really makes normal hydrocortisone. Um, but it's important because when you're under stress, the body is trying to release this cortisol to help with inflammation and help with pain and to help you have more stamina and resiliency to stress. Those, with fibro, you have these things called fibro flares, and you're vulnerable because you have a thing called adrenal fatigue. If you overdo it, you crash, right? So here's some other signs: hyperpigmentation, so changes in skin color, loss of scalp hair, excess facial or body hair. This is more for men, not for females. Changes in skin color, auricular calcification. So you get these little BBs, like these little. You can feel these little knots in your earlobes. That's a buildup of calcium because of adrenal fatigue. GI disturbances. These are some more. You can see muscle joint pain, but also nerve pain, all sorts of pain, really, from adrenal fatigue. And you can see it's a long list, right? So obviously, this is something that you don't want. But with fibro, this is something that you do have. And in the medical world, conventional medical world, when they do testing on a scale of 3 to 20, if you're a 4, which means you're really low in cortisol, they're going to tell you you're fine. And if you're a 19, which you're almost too high, developing a thing called Cushing's disease, where you're producing too much cortisol, gain a bunch of weight. Some of you may remember Jerry Lewis. He had that condition, and your face swells up and everything. But if you're a 19 and you're putting on weight and all this, they'll tell you you're within normal. But what about if you're one of those people like the cadavers that I worked on and you weren't like the textbook? You're different. So for you, if you're at a 4, and even though you're within the normal range at a 4 and you're not a 2, but you have all the symptoms of low adrenal function, shouldn't we treat that? Yes, we should. We definitely should. And this is what I say with my patients. Now, I normally do blood tests. I do a fasting cortisol test. I also do a 4-sample saliva test that can show me the cortisol level, which should be as high as first thing in the morning, start to come down, and then drop in the afternoon, and then close to bedtime, it's at its lowest. I like to see that pattern to be able to help my patients. However, you can test to see, do you have adrenal fatigue? It's a simple little test that will kind of give you an idea, do you or don't you? And you can do this thing called Ragland's test, where what you do is you just take your blood pressure lying down, and you can use an automated blood pressure cuff, or you can have somebody do it for you. If you have a manual, it doesn't matter. Of course, do it correctly. Make sure you're taking it here in your left arm, lying down, arm beside you. Take your blood pressure, and then stand up and take it again within 30 seconds. Now, when you go from lying down to standing up, what you should see when you take your blood pressure the second time is that systolic number, that top number, that should go up by 10 points. It should go up some. If it stays the same and it drops, that's a sign of adrenal fatigue. There's another way you can test for, let's see if we've got the other way. Here's the other way you can test for adrenal fatigue. Go into a dark bathroom, lights are turned off, look in the mirror, take a pen light or your phone, whatever, take some kind of light, shine it into the uncovered eye. What you should see is the pupil should constrict. Okay. So that black part should get smaller, but if it enlarges, that's a sign of adrenal fatigue. The majority of you are going to do one of these tests and you're going to see you have adrenal fatigue because your adrenal glands are your stress coping glands. Anytime you're under stress, especially chronic stress, you're going to be, your body's trying to release cortisol to reduce the inflammation that's being driven by this stress or to help you have some stamina and resiliency. The majority of you are suffering from fibro flares because you have adrenal fatigue. Once you start taking the adrenal cortex glandular supplement that's in my Fibromyalgia Jumpstart bundle, it's one of the 4 products that's in there. Once you start taking that at breakfast, take it at breakfast and at lunch, you're going to see you're going to have more stamina and resilience to stress. You're going to have more energy and you're going to see inflammation will improve. But you've got to, to do that, you've got to start to repair the adrenal glands. Because if you don't, and then I learned this the hard way 25 years ago, when I started working with my patients, I knew pretty quickly that if I could get them sleeping, they were going to do better. It just made sense to me even 25 years ago. I knew they would have more energy. I knew the whole thing about inflammation, poor sleep, how that went together, low thyroid. I knew all that back then. But what I saw was, yeah, I got them sleeping, but then because they felt so good and they hadn't felt good in a long time, they went out and they overdid it and they crashed and they were in bed for 3 or 4 days. That's when I knew I had to add to my protocols fixing adrenal fatigue and doing that with the adrenal cortex. When I had my medical practice for a number of years, I had a very large medical practice on the campus of Brookwood Hospital here in Birmingham, Alabama. And I had 5 medical doctors I could go to and say, hey, this patient needs this, they need that. And we used Cortef, prescription Cortef, a low dose, which is 1/4 to 1/5 the strength of synthetic steroid medication. And we got really good results. But when I sold my medical practice years ago, I had to do everything natural again. Now I'm not anti-drug. There's a time and a place. But the majority of what I do with my patients and have for 25 years is fixing the underlying causes naturally, because no one has a drug deficiency. There's a time and a place, no doubt. But the majority of the time, you can do it naturally, and that's what the body really wants. So the adrenal cortex is incredibly helpful with preventing flares and getting you out of your flares. By the way, once you start taking the adrenal cortex, if you've got an upcoming event coming up and you're concerned about the stress you're going to be under, it may initiate a fibro flare. Double your dose of the adrenal cortex. So take 2 adrenal cortex at breakfast and 2 at lunch, a week or so prior to this event. Then while you're at the event, keep on that dose, and then several days after, stay on that dose, and then go back to the regular dose. Another way, you get in a flare, something sets you into a flare, double your dose of the adrenal cortex. That will quickly get you out of that flare. I see this time and time again. The adrenal cortex supplement is incredibly powerful, especially combined with the other products that go in the Fibro Jumpstart bundle. I'm going to talk briefly about thyroid. I'm going to be doing a special presentation in the next couple of weeks. You'll get an email about it, where I'm going to do a 2-part series, probably a 3-hour presentation, an hour and a half each night or day. I'm not sure how I'm going to do it. All about your thyroid. 65% of those with fibromyalgia have, or at least my patients, I shared this earlier, have a problem with their thyroid that's hasn't been properly treated, or is not being treated correctly, or hasn't been diagnosed correctly. And your thyroid regulates your metabolism. So it controls your energy. If your thyroid is compromised, your energy is compromised, your body's compromised, because it not only can control your metabolism, it influences every cell in the body. So your immune system, certainly your your digestive system, your elimination system, your detoxification system, your musculoskeletal, building bone. I mean, all this is, regulated with the thyroid. And hypothyroidism, which is low thyroid, meaning your thyroid is not performing as it should, is very common. We're not going to talk about hyperthyroidism, but that's excess thyroid production, which can create some problems as well. But we're concerned here tonight with hypo or low thyroid because your thyroid is producing these hormones, which are designed to allow you to have energy and have your metabolism up so the body's able to regulate itself, communicate with other cells, and do all the interactions the body has to do on a second millisecond time frame. And when your thyroid's compromised, everything becomes compromised. Everything slows down. So your digestion slows down and your elimination slows down. So your digestion slows down because of low thyroid, low metabolism. So now you start getting bloating and gas. You're not digesting your food. You become constipated. Maybe you start to get sinus infections. I can't tell you how so many people over the years that I worked with had chronic sinus infections. Once I helped them fix their thyroid to work like it was supposed to, no more sinus infections. So low immune system problems, thyroid is a big part of that. I want to go, so temperature, this is what I want to share with you. So we're going to tell you how to self-test here in just a second. But your thyroid controls metabolism, which is cellular energy, which is heat. When you are fighting off an infection, what's your body do? Tries to run a fever, right? So that fever, as your temperature goes up, that destroys, it's designed to destroy the virus or the bacteria, whatever it is. So that temperature is very important. But when that temperature or that energy is compromised, your temperature goes down and everything slows down. Mental clarity, moods, all that slows down. So here we see your body controls your body temperature. How many of you have cold hands, cold feet? How many have a temperature below 97.8 or something? When you go to the doctor, take, oh yeah, your temperature's a little low. Are you taking it always runs a little low? How many of you? I'll bet you a bunch of you. Symptoms of low thyroid include the symptoms we'd see in fibromyalgia, right? Fatigue, that's probably the most prominent one. Headaches, migraines, dry skin, brittle nails, swelling, weight gain, unable to lose weight, cold hands and feet, tingling in your hands and feet, poor memory, hair loss, losing your voice, having laryngitis, hoarseness late in the day, especially if you've had a busy day, anxiety, depression, joint pain, nerve pain, neuropathy, yellowing of your skin because you can't break down the beta carotene, carpal tunnel syndrome, high blood pressure, chest pain, arteriosclerosis, high cholesterol, mental irregularities, including perimenopause problems, PMS, PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, fibrocystic breast disease, psoriasis, and the list goes on and on. So do you want to know if you have a problem with your thyroid, with your metabolism? I bet you the majority of you on here tonight are the people that are going to watch the replay. Here's how you can find out if you're someone who has a compromised metabolism and compromised thyroid. What I encourage you to do is first thing in the morning before you get out of bed to take a basal thermometer or a mercury thermometer, and you want to shake it down. And before you get out of bed, of course, you would, you're not burning up with the covers or anything like that, or heat electric blanket. Put the thermometer here, leave it there 10 minutes, take it out, and write it down. Do that over a 7-day period. Now, if you're still menstruating, if you're a female, obviously, if you're menstruating, you're female. The first 3 days of your period, your temperature is going to go up. Okay, so don't do it then. But otherwise, it doesn't matter. If you don't have a basal or you don't have a mercury thermometer, then you can use a digital. For a digital thermometer, wait about 2 hours after you're up, so your metabolism will, come on board. Take it underneath the tongue. Do it for 7 days. What you want to see is if your average temperature over a 7-day period is below 97.8, you have low metabolism and more than likely have a problem with your thyroid. Now, if you want to know definitively if you have a problem with your thyroid, you would get tested. And I want to leave it with this, and I'm going to take your questions. So how would you know definitively you have a problem with your thyroid? Blood test. That's the most accurate. The temperature test is something you can do on your own just to kind of see, right? Interesting, though, a lot of times if you have low thyroid, what you'll see is it's coming from adrenal fatigue. So if you start treating your adrenal fatigue, we're taking the adrenal cortex supplement, the Essential Therapeutics adrenal cortex supplement at breakfast, take it at lunch. Oftentimes what you'll see is the symptoms that I just shared with you that are associated with thyroid will improve because it's coming from your adrenal glands. Those of you that are taking thyroid prescription medication and are not responding, can't lose weight if that's an issue, or you're still losing hair or brittle nails or constipated or just have no energy, whatever it is, it's more than likely it's because of the adrenals, and you need to fix that as well. And a lot of times that will normalize the thyroid. Blood test, please write this down. When you go get blood tests, and your doctor's not going to run this unless you, more than likely they won't. Conventional doctor will not do this. If you have a functional medicine practitioner, they will. But you want to get a TSH, a thyroid stimulating hormone, which is normal. It's really normal look. You want to get and that's typically all they ever do. But you want to get a TSH, a free and total T4 and T3. You want to get a reverse T3, and you want to get thyroid antibodies. T is in Tom, P is in Paul, O is in ox, TPO, and T is in Tom, G is in girl, B is in boy. TPO and TGB antibodies to see if you have the beginning of Hashimoto's thyroiditis. The reason why so many people with fibromyalgia have a problem with the thyroid is chronic stress. Chronic stress. And that stresses out the thyroid. It's not able to do its job. And you start to develop problems with the hypothalamus, pituitary, right? We talked about that earlier, which is compromised in fibromyalgia. You have a problem with the hypothalamus, pituitary, regulating the thyroid, releasing the hormones that it needs to. So you start to have problems with your thyroid. And then you go to your doctor, and here's where the problem is. You go to a conventional doctor, and he or she does a TSH. They may do a T4, and that's it. A lot of problems here. Number one, TSH, when we do the blood test, we're only measuring how much TSH or T4 is in your bloodstream. We're not measuring how much is in the cell. Thyroid hormones don't do anything until they get in the cell. So it's really, in a way, it's kind of a guesstimation. Okay, you with me? We see this is the number, and then we assume that it's getting into the cell. It may not be, because some of you have a hormone called reverse T3, and it's causing you not to absorb the hormones that your body needs for thyroid to work correctly. You have two main thyroid hormones, T4 and T3. T4, many of you, if you're on thyroid, you're probably on synthetic T4, Synthroid, levothyroxine. It's easy to regulate. T4, when you take it or when the body produces it, it's supposed to turn into the active thyroid hormone, T3. You can live without T4, can't live without T3. T3 is the active hormone. All conventional doctors, I should say, most all, will not recommend you take something like Armour Thyroid or Natrothyroid or Westoid, which is a combination of T4, T3 in a more natural way the body will release it, because they don't understand it and they don't know how to regulate it. It's easier just to tell everybody, oh, just take Synthroid. And then come back and I'll check you again in 6 months. The problem is you go back in 6 months and you know better. They run a TSH and they tell you, oh, everything looks good, just stay on that dose. What they're not doing is running a reverse T3 and finding that synthetic T4 medication that you're taking is not converting to T3. And you still have all the symptoms of it. Okay. The other thing is that in the conventional lab and medical practice, they're looking at different parameters. In functional medicine, we want you to be at optimal levels. if, we don't want you to be a D student or an F student. Or even a C student. We want you to be an A or B student. We want your health to be at the upper level of optimal. We want you to be really healthy, not the walking wounded who maybe not be seeing a doctor, but we assume they're healthy because they're not in a doctor's office. We want you to be really healthy. And so our laboratory parameters are different. In the conventional, if your TSH is below 0.4, they're going to tell you that you're hyperthyroidism. If your TSH is above 4.5, sometimes even 5.2, they'll tell you you're hypothyroidism, you need to be on medication. The problem is several years ago, and this is this book is old now. It's old. I'm working on the 6th edition. This is still a great book. There's a lot of great information in there. But we've known for a long time that and the American College of Endocrinology, so thyroid specialists, have said that anybody with a TSH above 3.0 should be considered hypo or low thyroid and should be on medication. But rarely does that ever happen because conventional doctors are saying, oh, your TSH, it's at 4.0, it's good. In functional medicine, we would say you need to be on thyroid medication. And we have, in my clinic, I do it naturally. I use a product called Thyroid 200. It's an glandular like the adrenal cortex. I treat my thyroid patients, and again, about 65% of them have a problem with that. I treat them naturally. Now, there's nothing wrong with being on thyroid hormones. If it's working, there's nothing wrong. That's like hormone replacement therapy. Some of you would do better on a combination of T4, T3. Some of you would be better just on natural. And some of you don't even realize you have a problem with your thyroid because you're not doctors doing basic testing. But having said that, what I want to encourage you to do, at least get the testing done. Okay. So, and then you could go on yourfibrodoctor.com and you can see there's blogs, there's videos on there. I'm going to be doing a presentation in a couple of weeks so you can ask questions but you can get your own blood test done. Go to any lab test now. Supposedly I'm not taking any new patients. Sometimes they slip through the crack. Juno has got a big heart, and I guess I do too. But supposedly I'm not. Having said that, you don't need me to order your labs. You can get lab work done. Most of you can. If you come work with me in the coaching program, I can share with you documents and how to interpret your labs, how to get the labs at a dramatically discounted price without a doctor's prescription. That's in the coaching program. There's whole training on that. I want you to walk away with this and know what you need to do to start to feel good again. I mean, life's too short to learn to live with fibromyalgia. I've enjoyed sharing all this with you. I hope it was helpful to you, and I look forward to meeting some of you in the coaching program in the near future. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to Super Healthy Human with Dr. Rodger Murphree. Remember, your body is designed to heal. It just needs the right tools. Stay curious. Stay consistent. Stay super healthy. If this episode helped you, leave a review or share it with someone who's ready to take charge of their health. The information provided in this podcast is for educational purposes only and should not replace professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your physician before making changes to your health regimen. This content does not substitute medical care.